Welcome to another amazing episode of Wellness Warriors. I'm Dr. Veronique Desonier, better known as Dr. V, and founder of breastcancerconqueror.com and the 7 Essential System. Today I've got with me a fellow colleague and a dear friend that I met not too long ago, Dr. Cabeca. I'm so excited to have you on this podcast because the information that you have to share with my community is really going to resonate because we've all been there or going through that menopause situation, and so many of us have struggled through that. But a little bit about you, you're triple board certified and a fellow gynecology and obstetrics and integrative medicine and anti-aging, regenerative medicine. You've got special certifications in functional medicine, sexual health, bioidentical hormones, the list goes on and on. So let's find out about you, the woman, and why you're on this path to be able to help women go through menopause.
Yeah, thank you. It's really, honestly, Veronique, it's because I suffered myself. And at age 38, I was diagnosed with after a significant trauma in our lives, in our family. I went through a period that was just devastating to us and physically as well. And at age 38, I was told I was in early menopause with premature ovarian failure, and that I would never, ever be able to conceive another child, which is something my husband and I really wanted. And so that was like devastation upon devastation. And let me tell you, I struggled with that diagnosis and went on a journey around the world looking for answers, literally. And at age 41, I reversed menopause, and at age 41, I naturally conceived a baby. Her name's Ava Marie, and she is the miracle child, the one that I was told I would never have. So with God and all the wisdom that He put in my path, I was able to help restore health. And as a result of that, in my own life and in practice for the next decade of my life, I really work to help clients reverse disease. So whether it was breast cyst or, the early stages of questionable, breast cancer, what's going on, abnormal mammograms, fibroid uterus, ovarian cyst, and then all the hormonal problems with menopause. I went from doing 2 to 3 surgeries a week to 2 to 3 a year, as I empowered women to heal their own bodies and look at the cause of the symptoms and not just treat the symptoms.
That's excellent. Excellent. And understanding women's health, I've been through my own healing journey with breast cancer. I've been through it twice. And, one thing that we often hear from women as they're going through a healing journey is that they don't really understand what's happening in their body. Why are they having these hot flashes? And, why is their doctor trying to put them on this anti-hormone medication? Or some of them are trying to push, birth control pills, if they're younger. And so there's a lot of confusion when it comes to women's hormones and balancing them properly. And that's why I really appreciate the title of your book that is just launched, correct? Today is the official day.
Today.
So the Hormone Fix. And when you look at the table of contents, hormonal harmony, what a great word, is creating harmony in our hormones, because our hormones are very sensitive to so many environmental factors and stress. So speak on that for just a second about how stress can affect our hormones.
Yeah, our stress will take our hormones into a tailspin. And let me tell you, I know that personally. I know in my own life how that was devastating, and from a physical standpoint, but also mental, spiritual, emotional, and relational standpoint. And as I went through that, I healed my body, I reversed menopause, physically got healthy. There were other aspects that were still underneath the surface that were brewing. So PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. I went from that state where, our hormones, cortisol, our stress responding hormone gets, it pumps out. You get that diagnosis, whatever it is. And and you are stressed. That's trauma. And then your body is like, okay, enough cortisol. You're frying me out. Time to like put you away, lock you up in the bedroom. You're in timeout, like you're not coming out, shutting you down. Well, at the same time that's happening, this area of the brain, the paraventricular nucleus, which is shutting down, telling cortisol to, you're frying me out. It's too much. We get these low levels of cortisol, that chronic exhaustion, that chronic fatigue, the sluggishness, the brain fog is coming up too. We get these inflammatory symptoms, aches and pains and mood swings. All of that can be from this. But at the same time, the paraventricular nucleus is shutting down cortisol. Somehow oxytocin's getting shut down too. So, and that's what causes the relationship distress, the lack of feeling, sensation, the comments that I heard and I even said is, I love my husband, but I don't feel love for him. And that led in my own life to disconnecting from people I love, things I love, my occupation I love, disconnecting, not feeling it any longer. And that led my relationship to divorce. And looking back, I can see how physiology affected my behavior. And now in my book, I teach how behavior can improve your physiology and regain that balance. Because so many people, so many marriages end because of post-trauma, post-stress. And so many jobs are left, or things that you love doing, you stop doing. We become more isolated and alone. And that's really a very risky and unhealthy situation. And so I learned to go from post-traumatic stress to post-traumatic growth.
Beautiful.
And it's a powerful place to be. It really is a powerful place to be, because you see clearly what matters most to you in the world, what's the most important things to you. And you begin to rebuild with a new foundation the life you dream to live, you desire to live, and that can be had.
So how do you change that behavior? You said, that behavior should come first and then fix comes after. How do you recommend that?
Absolutely. It's oxytocin seeking behaviors. Like, we want healthy oxytocin seeking behaviors. So to bring oxytocin back into our life so that it's our crowning hormone. And in my book, I talk about the minor hormones as a gynecologist, and probably for so many of your viewers, you've been maybe wrought with fear about estrogen or told about progesterone. You got to stay away from these hormones, and even testosterone and DHEA aren't options, but they actually are. But anyway, I'd love to say these are the so important, hormones, but the more important hormones, the major hormones, are insulin, cortisol, and oxytocin. So in my book, The Hormone Fix, I teach you how to command them, how to get them working for you and have them stop working against you, and how we can improve our overall health and quality of health for the rest of our life. So with oxytocin seeking behaviors, we want to increase oxytocin in our life. So the first is reframing everything to the positive. We can say things in many ways, but we choose the positive way to say it, and face each day with appreciation. I teach my clients one of the things, and I do it myself on a regular basis. Before I get out of bed in the morning, I ask, what am I so glad I did yesterday? What am I so glad I did yesterday? That keeps the priority straight. That starts me off with, what's the most valuable thing in my life to me? Maybe it was spending time with a girlfriend, and maybe it was sitting down and not rushing or playing on the floor with my child. Maybe it was, whatever it was, but what was the most important thing I did yesterday? And what am I so glad I did yesterday? What am I so glad I did yesterday? So that appreciation comes in, the positivity, and that prioritization of things that are important to us in our life. That's key, with a positive twist on it always. So that's number one way to bring in oxytocin. Gratitude and appreciation, we know, increases oxytocin. It's a practice and a principle that improve a behavior that improves our physiology. Smiling improves our physiology. And other things like we're right in the middle of my book release today, most stressful time in my entire life, right? It should be, but I have a tremendous amount of peace. And because my daughter, who's now my miracle child, right? She turns 11 tomorrow.
Wow.
She turns 11, but she earned a new puppy. And so I was like, okay, great. That brings puppies bring oxytocin into the house. Note to self, next time, potty trained puppy. That's what we want. potty trained puppy.
Not around a book launch.
Not around a book launch. Like, what was I thinking? But the oxytocin, playing with a pet, having fun, laughter, going to a funny movie, being with friends that make you laugh, being around positive people, and really in socializing, church community groups, whatever it is for you, that things you enjoy. And often we don't want to, it's like going to the gym. I never want to go, but I'm so glad I went. And I know there are people that love going. I'm not one of those people. I want to stay and read. That's what I want to do. But things that you're so glad you did it, that's oxytocin. That's oxytocin.
And oxytocin, could you explain oxytocin for
Yes.
our community?
Yeah, absolutely. Oxytocin is the love and bonding hormone, the hormone of love and connection. It's a powerful physiologic hormone. It's produced in the brain and our nervous system, and it's also produced in our heart. It's produced in our uterus. It's produced in our ovaries, different areas of our body. But our heart doesn't only produce oxytocin, it also has receptors to receive oxytocin,
Wow.
which was so phenomenal. When I experienced our trauma, my heart literally hurt. You've heard heartache, but my heart, I had pain in my heart. And I really believe this was a physiologic phenomenon. Like, what's happening? My heart was aching. Physically, it was aching. And I never read that anywhere in a textbook. I still have yet to find that in research, but I experienced it. And many of you may have too, where it like physically hurts your heart. And there are probably other reasons for that, but the fact that our heart produces and receives oxytocin may be one of them. And when we're grieving,
Yeah, and which is why I'm a fan of the Heart Math Institute and connecting with the heart and finding your heart rate variability and coherence, because the heart doesn't just pump the blood, as you mentioned, receives and gives off specific hormones. So that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, another aspect of your book that I really resonated with was the keto green diet. Now, I learned about the ketogenic diet a few years ago, and when I was going through my second healing journey, I really dove in deep, like hardcore ketogenic diet, counted my carbs, fats, proteins, and I did it for 6 months. I kind of had a love-hate relationship with it because I was doing it, very extreme. And what I love about what you describe in your book is a very balanced approach. People think of ketogenic, lots of pork and fat and, very few vegetables, but you really describe the opposite of that. So tell us about why you took on the keto green approach with your and your lifestyle.
Yeah, definitely. Because when I started at age, at 38, I went through menopause, reversed it. And then another stressful time, post-divorce, single mom, a lot of issues going on. I went through menopause again at 48. And at that point, it was like, okay, 5, 10, 20 pounds were coming back on me. And, if anyone's ever lost a significant amount of weight and you see the scale climbing again, you don't know when it's going to stop. I mean, I've been over 240 pounds, the point where you stop weighing, right?
Wow.
And, to lose that and then to start seeing the scale climb up. But so many of my patients, honestly, Veronique used to say that, when I was in my early 30s, my patients would come in and they say, Dr. Anna, I'm gaining weight and I'm not doing anything different. I'm like, really? Really? So humble. God makes me humble every day. So it was that, I'm like, maybe there's something you're doing different, right? Surely you're doing something, you're not doing something. And, but that happened to me. And literally I was not doing anything different. And the weight, 5, 10, 20 pounds, like in a matter, it seemed like weeks, and the scale kept climbing. And that's when I went into more of the ketogenic. But every time I had prescribed ketogenic diet for my clients, because I saw patients with Parkinson's, seizures, neurologic issues, they would complain in the perimenopause about irritability, mood swings, irritable, just don't like the way it makes me feel, Dr. Anna, so, and whenever I tried it, I called it going keto crazy, but I was desperate at that point. I'm like, I'm going to cut out all my carbs. I gotta, and I literally was going keto crazy, mood swings, fatigue, just irritability. And you can't be that, not as a single mom, not as a business owner. I mean, you can't do, and I didn't like how it made me feel. And I was like, why? I know something's shifting here, but what's happening? And so that's when I just had the aha moment. Well, let me just check my urine, because in functional medicine, we say, check your urine pH. We want your urine pH greater than 7. I'm a strong, wholehearted believer in doing that for women, especially. And my urine pH was continuously acidic. Well, if I don't have the nutrients coming through my kidneys, minerals, mineral salts, etc., then it's leaching from somewhere. Bone, muscle, neurotransmitters aren't being provided for, serotonin, dopamine, hence the crazy. That was my deduction. And so I just started adding the alkalinizers. I said, it's more important to be alkaline than to be in ketosis. Let me add the alkalinizers back, get my urine pH up above 7, nice and healthy alkaline urine, and then go back into the ketosis again. And ketosis through healthy fats, healthy proteins, and intermittent fasting. Really key difference in my plan, not just what we're eating, how and when we're eating it. So, and then adding in those greens, beet greens, chard, collard, cruciferous vegetables, or broccoli or cauliflower, so we're getting, healthy fats, healthy proteins, lots of greens with good fiber. So critical for hormone balance in women. And that difference, getting keto green, getting both in ketosis and alkaline, and I have clients check with their urine pH strips, was like, light bulb going off, energized enlightenment. Not only did I feel better and lose 18 of those 20 pounds in 6 weeks, I also, the fog lifted, the clarity came back. My energy was great, but and I also had peace. I had peace. I had happy mood. I was nicer to be around. I brought a nice magnetic energy into the room with me versus like, stay away from me, don't come near me energy.
Keto crazy. That's pretty funny. Love that. So that's great. It's a very balanced approach, because I know there's so many different camps out there when it comes to diet and nutrition, but I find that your approach is very balanced, which brings me to this, Mighty Maca. So tell me the story behind that. Thank you for this, by the way. You sent this to me as a gift. I really appreciate it. And I tasted it at the last Mindshare. Yes, it was really, really good. And I intended on getting some. So thank you. So tell us about that.
Well, part of my journey when I was healing at 38, I literally went around the world, part of my healing journey. But one of the stops was to Peru. My nurse was from Peru. And so went and stayed with her family. And at that point, I was told irreversible menopause, and everywhere we went in Peru, they said, if you're tired, drink maca. If this is in 2006. So if you're fatigued, drink maca. If you're not, your child's not thriving, give it maca. And also they would elbow my husband and say, it's the Peruvian Viagra.
Okay.
And there I am, the skeptic again. Really? But like, hey, with all that, I'm like, I'm drinking maca. But number one, I hated how it tasted. And number two, I needed to look at the research. So I Googled it. I looked at the research. I looked into, the monographs on herbal products. And maca has an interesting history. It's a very unique. It's actually in the cruciferous family. It's an alkaline root vegetable, and it really has high composition of arginine. Now, arginine produces nitric oxide, which improves blood flow, which is how Viagra works. Mm-hmm. And not only that, it's an adaptogen. So whether you're in overdrive or underdrive, maca can help balance. And it's also, again, it's detoxifying, and it has its own specific proteins. And so in Mighty Maca Plus, I use organic Peruvian maca. And because I couldn't stand the taste, predominantly reason plus, as a scientist and growing up in a house of culinary experts, I wanted to add in other ingredients that nourished our body and also affected our other inflammatory pathways, also supported the adrenals, also supported detoxification. So I started adding these in and experimenting, especially as I went around the world, like what's the native foods you eat for infertility? What's the native foods you eat for, fatigue? And so acerola and mangosteen and turmeric and greens and extracts. And I started combining these and then, adding science to my life experience and also very sensitive taste buds. I created Mighty Maca Plus.
It tastes really good. I was pleasantly surprised because the same reason I didn't like the taste of it, so I never really took it unless it was in capsule form, and it never really did anything for me. So I really, really have enjoyed this. So thank you for that gift. The other gift that I discovered was at my my practitioner's office. She had some samples of something called Jova.
That's how you learned about it. I wondered.
Well, actually, on your website, the testimonial that you have, it's Dr. Campbell's office.
Yes.
Yes.
Dr. Ellie Campbell, of course.
Yes. And so she really helped me a lot through my second healing journey. And there were samples there. And I thought, this looks interesting. So I tried the samples and then ordered it after that. It was just made such a beautiful difference. And I love the name of it. So tell us about Julva.
Yes, Julva for joyful vulva or juicy vulva, however you want to call it. But Julva it's been a love project for me. Definitely one of the things that women struggle with a lot is especially as we're getting older, is a decreased desire. But why do we have it? That's always the question. And one thing I tell clients is if you have pain or discomfort every time you do something, why would you want to do it? Right? Exactly. You just wouldn't. That's just negative feedback. But we experience discomfort, maybe discharge after intercourse, or odor or urinary tract infections after intercourse. And especially as we get older, I mean, I've suffered myself as well as I've seen thousands of women. And so as I got more familiar with, restoring vulvar and vaginal health, I knew that we needed an option that all women could have access to that was safe, without chemicals and hormone disruptors, and that was natural. And so that's why I created Julva. And yeah, the testimonials are just heartwarming because it creates a level of connection again between relationships. That's huge. But also, things that women suffer with as we get older, just the discomfort or the accidental leak when we cough or sneeze, because that tissue is not healthy. And so we improve that and those symptoms go away and it restores our confidence. And, okay, we don't have to deal with that. We really don't have to power through this,
Exactly. And menopause does not have to be something that is, painful or uncomfortable. It's really a wonderful part of life. I mean, I went through menopause 13 years ago, and it was premenopause was worse for me than the actual menopause, but there was definitely those problems with sometimes the incontinence and the dry vaginal walls and all those things. And as I improved my health and went on that journey and used products similar to that, I mean, there was such a difference in enjoying my life in the menopause age. Your kids are grown, they're out of the house, it's just my husband and I, so it's a different stage of life, which is really a lot of fun. Now, let me ask you.
Thank you for sharing that too, Veronique.
Oh, you're welcome. Now, if there were some words of wisdom that you would like to share with my community and the women who are on a breast cancer healing journey, what words of wisdom would you impart to them to encourage them?
Number one, don't give up. And we can leave the fear behind us. We can start facing the future with even more hope and expect to live and enjoy a quality of life. Can I share a story with you, Veronique?
Absolutely.
Early on in my practice, I think it will, after I'd gone through my own healing journey and started practicing this way, one of my clients, her husband actually literally dragged her in. She'd been living on the couch and not living, actually depressed, not moving. She was let me tell you, she was 47 years old, had recurrent metastatic breast cancer. When she was initially diagnosed with breast cancer, she had chemotherapy, radiation therapy, 11 rounds of chemo. And she went from that point. So she was early 40s when she was first diagnosed with breast cancer. So I saw her about 8 years later. So maybe she was 49. And at that point, she'd stopped seeing the doctor, hadn't seen her oncologist in years. She said, every time I go, they just said, you're fine, or what can you expect? I mean, this is the best you can expect at this point. And so she had stopped going back, and so she would say she was just felt like she was living life waiting for the next shoe to drop, right? And that's how she was living. And she was depressed. She underwent a hysterectomy after her mastectomy, after her breast surgery and her cancer or chemotherapy and radiation therapy. She underwent a hysterectomy. And then so her husband essentially dragged her in to see me from several hours away and from Middle Georgia. And she said, you're my last hope. I really feel like my husband would be better off finding another wife, finding someone else. And, there's nothing left for me. And I sat with her and I said, yes, there is. I mean, I said, God wouldn't bring you here to me if there wasn't. So this is what we're going to do. And I promise you, within a couple of weeks, you'll be feeling better. And she did everything I asked her to do. So very much this keto green type of diet. I didn't really have all the ins and outs of it at that time, but we had Candida to deal with. So I had her on a very strict anti-Candida, also very low carbohydrate program, but still with a lot of alkalinizers supplementing in. Let me tell you, in the next 11 months, she lost over 80 pounds. She went from living on the couch, not wanting to even go to the front door, to riding 100 miles bike ride across Georgia. Wow. She did a 100-mile bike ride. And actually, I was just on with Robin Nielsen. She came to one of my retreats, Sexy Younger You retreats, did stand-up paddleboarding for the first time. And she lived, and oh my gosh, she lived her life. And her husband also got in better shape as a result of it. And he said, Dr. Anna, thank you for putting the twinkle back in my bride's eyes. And that warmed my heart. Now, Marianne lived another 5 years, and I went to see her because, at that last point, she was in hospice, and she said, I said, Marianne, I'm sorry I wasn't able to cure you. And she said, Dr. Anna, you gave me the best 5 years of my life. The best 5 years of my life. She goes, I lived more in this 5 years than I have in my entire life. And one thing she wanted to do was dance at her daughter's wedding. So she got to dance not only did she dance at her daughter's wedding, but she danced all night at her daughter's wedding. Everyone else was exhausted and she was going strong. That's awesome. So she lived in those years, and then had a viral illness, and that, took her down with that. So complicated things. Yeah. But, I'll never forget her story. And one thing she would always say, she goes, it's gratitude, not attitude, that makes all the difference.
That is so true. That is so true. Because when they're diagnosed, you can be bitter or you can be better. You can always see the gift in it if you choose to. So healing journey is not just about getting rid of the lump or the bump, but it's about a transformation of your whole life. And, some choose to do that. They come out on the other side a much happier and healthier person in the end. So thank you for sharing that story. Well, Dr. Anna, thank you so much for taking the time. I know it's a busy day for you. I'm really excited about your book. And if people want to get your book, where can they get it? And where can they get more information about you?
Yeah. So thank you. Thank you so much, Veronique. My website, dranna.com. So think Dranna, DRANNA.com. And you can get our book bonuses at dranna.com/book.
Okay. And is it available on Amazon yet?
Everywhere books are sold. Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Books A Million. Yeah, everywhere. Local bookstores. Yeah.
Excellent. And where can people get a sample of this? Do you still offer that?
We do. We can provide a link to your audience. So we'll make sure we'll get that link for a free trial for all your viewers.
Okay, that'll be awesome. Yeah. That'll be awesome. So thank you so much for your time and your expertise. It's been a lot of fun talking with you today.
Oh, I enjoyed it. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.